Welcome to the Steve and Caleb Show. My name is Caleb.
And my name is Steve. Here we like to talk about politics and current events from a perspective of liberty.
Oftentimes our opinions make both Republicans and Democrats uncomfortable.
Let's dive in. Hello, Caleb.
What's up, man?
Hey, have you ever seen the movie Minority Report?
I actually,
Tom Cruise.
no, I
You've not seen it?
I haven't seen it.
It's very appropriate for watching right now with current events.
So I saw it. I did see it was trending, and then I ended up buying it, and then I just never watched it.
Really?
So
you need to watch it.
I have it ready.
It's on your watch list.
Watch it soon.
Homework for next week.
Yeah, I'll probably do it tonight.
The premise of the movie, and I'm probably going to butcher this because it's been 5-6 years since I've seen it.
That's fine.
Is there's a technology that's developed with like these 3 or 4 psychic children, right?
Uh-huh.
And through this weird process, they kind of get into it. These children can predict future crimes, and essentially what they do is the police receive these little like balls, these little spheres, and it says like the place, time, day, and they have to rush to the scene and prevent the crime from happening. Now, in the movie, then, and this is kind of the whole crux of the movie, is the morality of pre-policing, i.e., no crime has actually been committed yet, but you're stopping someone in the crime,
right?
Or before the crime occurs. And they have all this propaganda with it. You know, there's like these commercials where this one woman's like, he was going to rape me, and I didn't even know, and they stopped him right before it happened. You know, and it's, you can tell in the commercial that's on there, it's very propagandized and everything. Right. There's also, that movie has a lot of foreshadowing things that have kind of come to pass in modern times.
When did it come out?
Man, it was probably like early 2000s.
Okay,
it's kind of old, but like there's like facial recognition where like you walk into a store. This is actually kind of cool. I almost wouldn't have a huge problem with this, but they scan your eyes, right?
Okay, and
like you walk into like a JCPenney, for example,
right?
If they even exist. And this scans your eyes, and if it's you, you'd be like, "Welcome, Caleb. Did you like that shirt you bought last month? We have more on sale."
So like, it's kind of like the whole Facebook thing where they listen to you,
right,
or I guess
right.
they supposedly they listens, and then it's like, did you want to shop for this?
Yeah,
well, I just thought of it.
Obviously, like the whole privacy thing, I have an issue.
Sure,
if this was a real thing, but it kind of is a real thing.
Yeah,
But I'm sure I know what, as you've seen, these federal agents in Portland. Yes. Arresting people as a proactive law enforcement measure.
Right.
So, I guess to throw it back to you, because I gathered from last week, which great job last week, by the way,
Thank you.
On your solo run. People had said they want to hear more from you because I have a really bad habit of talking a lot.
No, you're good.
I used to be a preacher, so if that explains anything. But, so what are your thoughts on the pre-policing in Portland by federal law enforcement agencies?
Okay, so here's my two choices of thought, because I can go either way. There is the legality, and then there's the morality, right? So if you want to post something on Facebook about it, I'm sure a lot of your right-leaning friends will dive into the legality of it, right? So I'm not sure if you saw, but
law and order, that's what they always say.
A few days ago, a family member of my wife's commented, and he was debating essentially what came down to the legality of it. He's like, yeah, this is kind of like normal. This is even what police do normal. Like, it didn't seem like that out of the blue to him. And it just seemed like he was arguing the legality. And a lot of other people will argue the legality, but like, oh, well, they shouldn't be committing crimes. Legality. But then it's not the legality people are necessarily concerned with, because you and I can't necessarily go and change a law other than just voting for people to change it for us.
Right. Yeah.
So we can't argue legality necessarily, but what you and I, when it comes to this kind of stuff, we argue the morality. So legally speaking, I'm sure they're acting within their means, because I'm sure there's some judge somewhere that has a ruling somewhere,
right,
sometime that totally puts them in the clear. So I'm not going to argue that. I'm not even going to try. But when it comes to morality, when you look at the term proactive arrest, because the DHS, because you're talking about the interview on Fox News or whatever it was, where the DHS guy was like, yeah, we're doing proactive arrests. Is
right.
That what,
okay. Yeah, that's what I'm referencing.
Okay, so
now I should clarify too. I haven't like dove real deep into all this,
right,
as far as like what's actually happening.
Uh-huh.
I'm more looking at kind of just, I guess I'm headline surfing, so to speak.
Sure.
But I'm looking at it thinking the fact that I know I'm not the only one headline surfing this, and people are all for it.
Right.
And like I said, you mentioned that, you asked me something a while back if people would just give up, their rights or be so complacent.
Yeah.
I said no. I said yes if the president is a Republican. And I think this is the same thing. I think we have a lot of mutual right-leaning friends,
Right.
Where they're all for this because I think that it's a Republican administration. If Obama was in office right now, the people being taken off in unmarked vans, it would be, look what the Muslim communist is doing. That's what they'd all be saying. Because we both had Facebook back in 2008, 2009 when he got elected. That's everything. That's everything I saw. And not that I agree with any of that, for the record, but I'm seeing. To your point, the morality of all that. Seeing videos of people being arrested by federal agents and put into unmarked vans.
Right.
And I've seen that video. I've seen several different. I don't know if it's the same video from different angles, but I've seen several iterations of that happening. And now I kind of have a little inside baseball on this as far as the vans go, because I noticed they're all Dodge vans, like Dodge Caravans. Yeah. And if those of you who might remember the whole government bailing out the American automotive industry, a part of all that was the U.S. government bought a lot of these GM vehicles. That was they didn't just give them money. They bought stuff at I'm sure it's
super
an incredible
discount
discount or whatever it was. And if you look at anytime you see U.S. government on the license plate, almost every single time it's going to be a GM product. It's going to be a Chevy or a Dodge or something like that.
Right.
The only time you'll see something different is overseas, where I had as far as like government, U.S.
Did you have
government,
Tatas?
we had Toyota Hiluxes. They're really nice actually.
Yeah.
But all of our heavy trucks were Dodge Rams. So even then, you're still getting the Dodge GM.
So did you not have Tatas?
Tatas?
Tata is like, I could be butchering this, but I'm pretty sure it's an Indian-made car. We had just tons of Tatas.
Really? No, we had this Toyota Hiluxes, RAV4s, Toyota, and Dodge Rams, and
we had
a Hyundai van that we used too.
We didn't have any of those.
But mine was an old Air Force base, so kind of posh, you know what I'm saying? But
you have heated seats and all that.
I think some of them did. I know our Hilux had Bluetooth, really suffering.
Yes.
But anywho, but they're loading them in they're GSA, they're government vehicles,
yes,
right? That's why they're using them. If they're federally available,
yeah.
I'm sure that's what it is. Do I think that it's like this vast conspiracy and they're taking them off to gulags to be re-educated?
Probably not.
No, I read a report somewhere where they were taking them to just a holding facility, and
a catch and release type thing.
Yeah, they're getting there. Hey, look, you're doing this activity, probably going to prosecute you later. But there's so many. There's no way they can detain all of them and hold them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they have to have like a whole like facility established. Of course, I don't know the ins and outs of all that.
Well, nobody does. It seems like there's so much not being disclosed.
Right.
Which is why I'm so skeptical.
This is where the morality. This is exactly to your point. What I'm saying is it illegal? Probably not. Is it at the very least, does it look really, really bad in a time when the government already looks really, really bad?
At face value.
Right.
Yes.
How hard would it have been to get a decal on the side of that Dodge Caravan that says FBI or DHS or whatever agency du jour is being represented that time? How hard would it have been? Or even just police.
Yes.
Like that alone. Now I'm not saying like the federal law enforcement should just snatch people off the streets. If that's what's happening, that's a whole other issue. Also, yes, to everyone's point that's probably screaming right now is yes, they shouldn't be looting and rioting.
No.
That's also true. But the federal government also shouldn't be snatching citizens off of it.
Let me ask you a question then. Mm-hmm. So, looting and rioting, bad.
Right.
Illegal. Totally illegal. Should always be illegal.
Yeah.
So, people are saying, well, they have the right to be doing this because federal property is being damaged. Well, the only damage I'm really seeing is graffiti and broken windows. I'm not seeing people set cities on fire anymore. That was the George Floyd thing. That's done. That's over. We're not seeing that anymore. We're still seeing broken windows and graffiti. But do you think that is worthy of deploying federal police?
Right.
Graffiti.
I think part of it might have been there was the appearance, like the whole Chaz Chop thing.
That was awful,
which is
right.
cleared up, I guess, from what I can gather. It's mostly been cleared up.
And that was done properly. They had a whole line of people, and they just
kind of pushed them
marched
out.
through.
Yeah.
Nobody was being, I don't know, taken in vans.
Right.
At least it wasn't caught on film,
Right.
so we don't
and
know.
everything's caught on film, so you would know about it.
Probably.
If it happened. But I think, I know Trump was very much, I kind of appreciated this where he was talking about the mayors or like the governors or whatever, like handle it at the lowest level. Right. He was kind of like, hey, you need to get this under control or I'm going to do it for you.
Right.
And I do think that there is some validity in that statement as far as like the responsibility of the federal government, because like
to keep people safe, and,
right? Exactly. Like I've really appreciated good Trump, kind of good Trump, bad Trump. He does good things, just bad things.
Sure, he's a person.
One of the good things he's done, in my opinion, is like the whole COVID response. He's like, hey, governors, how are you handling this? What are you going to do? It's your state. Right. I'm not gonna come hold your hand.
No,
don't make me come and hold your hand. You don't want that.
Most of these guys are more educated than he is.
Right. Exactly. I think he knows that.
Yeah.
But I kind of appreciated that, like the whole 10th Amendment. Let the states handle it. What do you say, Governor? Now
that is
whether
good
we
leadership.
disagree with the governor or not, that's amongst ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much easier. How many people live in Indiana? It's like 2 million, something like that.
I don't know.
And on a state by state basis. So you have let's just say for the sake of argument, 2 million people in Indiana. Okay, and there's however many 100 million, 200 million people in the country, right? All the people tweeting at Trump, hey, this is what you should do with COVID, or I disagree with you. That's not going to get through. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot easier to go to my mayor or to my representative of my district that I'm in, or my governor, or whoever.
Right.
That's how I think it should be handled, is
because you're not getting a hold of the president.
Exactly. Handle it at the lowest level. I have never emailed or called like the office of the president of the United States. I have emailed and called my governor, my state representatives, my state senators, local. I've called when I used to live in a different town. I would call the mayor.
Does it make you mad? You may have had a different experience talking about calling your state rep. Mm-hmm. Have you ever had the experience where you call and it just goes to a receptionist?
I think that's kind
I've never had the opportunity to talk to a rep, ever.
I don't know if I have either. Come to think of it, but the way I look at it is I'm a voice amongst however many 100,000. If the receptionist like gets a general idea, like, hey, 50 guys called today and said they don't like your suggestion on the Second Amendment, like that's kind of how I view it. Is like I'm just one voice out of many.
Sure.
And I'm doing my bit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, because I figure for every guy calling that's pro this, there's another guy calling that's anti that, or whatever. Right. Whatever the case is, I'm just wanting to make my voice heard. I found I have had a lot more success with emails. The emails I get back, unless they're really good at it, which there's a chance of that, I feel like somebody actually typed it and thought about what they were saying.
Okay.
Whereas it doesn't just seem like a robotic, automatic response. And it's always like several days later. So there's a part of me that thinks, okay, maybe they're actually reading the email.
It wasn't like 5 minutes later.
Right. And the response that, of course, you get the thank you for reaching out. We'll respond back to you as soon as we can. Mm-hmm. Someone's reading it and replying to it, because the reply I get is always in reference to what I was talking about. There was a gun bill in Indiana a while back that was like stupid, and I'm like,
are you talking about the one in January?
I think so. I'm like, how about no? He was a little more than that.
Right.
It was better worded, but I feel like that one voice amongst many. I did my part as a citizen to
it's a good answer.
To be active in my area and where I live. Like I have to live here.
But anyways, back to the DHS. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
dead air. Dead air's bad.
No. All right. So I saw a video today, and I guess a lot of people have seen this. It completely went over my head. There's a video today of this old man who's a Vietnam vet.
Yeah, the Navy guy.
Yeah. So he was. I don't know if he's a resident of Portland, but I'm pretty sure he's a resident of Seattle. Mm-hmm. And he's basically standing there yelling at these DHS dudes. It's just the typical protest thing. The dudes are standing in a line. They're just taking it like men, which is how they should. Just taking the tongue lashing, I guess.
Yeah.
And the old man is essentially saying, I swore to uphold the Constitution, defend the government, just like you guys are, blah, blah, blah. And I would have done anything for my government, just like you guys would, blah, blah, blah. And he was saying, but then when you do things so blindly like this, you end up committing atrocities. Mm-hmm. And he's like, we killed 170 innocent people. Now, whether he's exaggerating or not, I don't know. There's plenty of stories that are like that, of like overzealous lieutenants leading platoons into killing innocent
in Vietnam
people in Vietnam.
Oh yeah, there's just tons of them.
There's just a lot.
The My Lai massacre is probably the most famous one.
Yes, so he's probably not lying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the first thing. And his point was essentially, if you do things blindly like this, you're going to do something that's overzealous. You're going to hurt somebody. Blah blah blah. I don't think he was comparing them to killing 170 innocent people, but it is still the same essence.
It starts somewhere.
Hey, maybe you should question things a little more. Anyways, tongue lashing them. And they're taking it. And by the way, since they're taking it so well, it makes him look like a crazy old kook, which for them is good. If you're, it's like if somebody's yelling at you and you're in public, about something stupid, like you didn't put a cart back or something. I don't know. If you just stand there and take it,
Where's your mask?
They're gonna look like a Karen, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of like what he looked. But then out of nowhere, these DHS guys just blasted him in the face with this fire extinguisher like pepper spray bottle. And it wasn't just like a little bit of like in the eye.
You mean like the big where it has like it looks like a spray paint
It looked like a fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
And they just blasted him in the face and then
like
just
a white
mowed
sweater
over
on?
him.
Make sure we're talking about the same one. Like a white sweater.
Oh, I don't know what he was wearing.
I think we're talking about the same one because I read something that he had said. He had posted something about it where he was basically telling them to honor your oath.
Yes. Yes, he was wearing a white sweater.
Right. Okay. So the same video I'm thinking of, and then at some point they beat him with the nightsticks, right?
When they were plowing into him, they had their nightsticks in hand, and they may have like bumped him and tapped him or something. I don't know.
The one I saw,
that part happened so fast. I don't know.
The one I saw, they were definitely beating him with the nightsticks.
You may have got a different view than the one I saw. So
Okay.
I'm sure he did because they looked pretty aggressive when they plowed through him.
Yeah.
And so the point is, it's like, the unmarked cars grabbing people. He is a peaceful protester.
Yeah.
He is not an Antifa member.
He's not lighting stuff on fire.
He's not lighting stuff on fire. He's not breaking windows. Well, I mean, he could have in the past, but at the moment, when the disciplinary action is put into place, nothing was happening.
Right.
He was just yelling. So
Yeah. Yep. It's not good.
No.
And here's the thing. So when everyone and again, I'm not saying that the actions by the DHS or whoever was involved is this. And this is we always say this is, I hate using this example, but you have to. You have to remember history. You go back to either the Soviets or the Nazis. The Soviets are probably a better example because they're a little more subtle about things. The Nazis were like, "Hey, round up all the Jews and kill them." Like he was more straightforward. That's not what's happening. The Soviets were like, "Hey, you're against the government. You need to be re-educated. Go to labor camp."
I like that comparison.
But the thing is as a book, I think it's called Normal People or Normal Men or something like that. I've heard references made to it by several different psychologists that have studied history and things of that nature, where essentially the gist of the book is that these people who commit these atrocities, just like the My Lai massacre or the things in Vietnam, they're just regular people. They're like within we're going to talk about the military, within a platoon of 40 guys. At least one of them is going to be a sociopath. At least one of them is going to have extra violent tendencies. Right? Exactly. It's more likely maybe more.
You and I have both. Well, for those of you who don't know, Steve and I are vets. So we are speaking out of experience.
Yeah. So there's always that a couple people that if put in that situation are going to be more likely to do something really
less
bad.
Reluctant at
But
the
here's
least.
the thing. But every time this is atrocities committed, whether it's in past wars, current wars, whatever, it's everybody. Because as soon as it starts, it's everybody's in because you're part of that team, and that's this mindset that police often have. There is, I don't care what they say. I've talked to a lot of police. I'm sure you have had the same conversations. They all claim that no, we're there for the community, and I believe that they mean that. I really do. But there is, regardless of what they say, an us versus them mentality. There is.
To some extent,
and maybe not around here as much because it's a little more peaceful. But I know in bigger cities, I know a guy who's a cop down in Dallas.
Yeah.
When you talk to him about his police, things they've done, everything, you can hear it. He's like, you got to take care of my teammates, man. I got to take care of my partner, and I get that. I absolutely. Get that.
I heard something the other day. Just to pause. Did you know who Maj is? It Tour? Do you know what I'm talking about? He's a black man who ran for, I believe it was like a Senate position in Philly. He's a libertarian, and he was a criminal back in the day, but he's like super awesome libertarian, good dude, stand-up citizen. Right. Anyways, he made a comment yesterday on the Matt Kibbe podcast, about how, dude, the stuff you're saying with the us, it sounds like an us versus them thing. You sound just like my thug boy a few years ago,
Yes.
who's making similar statements, but about the other side. You sound just like him.
Yeah.
But anyways, continue.
And again, I get it.
Sure.
Because when you're in a really dangerous place, when I say I get it, I mean I understand it. I don't necessarily agree with it. But you're in a dangerous place. You got to take care of each other. You have to. You know, any team thing, even if it's football, you're trying to take care of your team.
Yes.
You want to win. Police want to win. And again, I totally get that. I want police to win too, because when police don't win, you get Chaz or whatever it's called.
Chaos.
Yeah, exactly. But when us versus them, when the only take care of my own mindset completely takes over, you get My Lai Massacre in Vietnam.
You do.
Because that, you want to talk about us versus them. You know, did the average private first class in Vietnam really hate the average Vietnamese citizen?
No.
And you talk to guys who are in combat anywhere in the world. They kind of understand, like, this is just the guy defending his homeland.
Yeah.
Even if he's, someone has convinced him that in the case of Vietnam, communism is the way. That's just an ideological difference.
My grandpa, he was in Korea, and so this is coming from my father. He mentioned that my grandfather would be really happy when like Korean companies would come to America and be successful, because it's like, because they don't hate them.
Right.
They want to see these people succeed and be good people and prosper.
Right. Look at Japan and Germany.
Just to go with your point, yeah.
I mean, Germany did some awful things, and they know it.
Yeah.
And Japan, like the wars, the island hopping campaigns in World War II with Japan, the things that they did to American soldiers and everything. I mean, it was some vicious stuff.
Right.
But you know what? We get along pretty good with the Japanese now.
Yeah, we
because
like their cars.
At the end of the day, we're all just people. It's a story I was telling Caleb before we started recording. When I was overseas, there was these two guys. They drove trucks for us, hauling cargo, and we were going through this really beautiful area in the desert, all these sand dunes and things. And it was like sunset time. The sky was like partly cloudy, beautiful day. It wasn't even hot out, and we actually stopped and got out to like take pictures with the sand dunes. And these two guys are dressed in like traditional Muslim clothes, like the long, we call them man jammies, but I don't know what the proper name is for them. They're dressed like that. I think one was from Egypt, one was from Pakistan, I believe. And we get out and we're like taking pictures and selfies, and like, me and my guys I was with, and they're up there doing the exact same thing. They're smiling and laughing and having a good time, and they start taking pictures with us. I got selfies with them, and they're like thumbs up and waving. Right. And another guy I talked to, in a town I was in, he asked me what I thought about the place. I won't name it just for reasons, but I said so far I really like it here. It's it's a nice place. And he said America's good, and he said this place good too. He goes, what else did he say?
That's awesome.
Something, he was like really excited that I liked it there.
Oh yeah, dude.
And at the end of the day, we have to remember that whenever we're dealing with people, they're people.
Yes.
When cops come into approaching a suspect of committing a crime or otherwise, it's a person.
With a family.
That's a human being.
Right.
Exactly.
That's actually people's arguments in favor of cops, which is
right.
It's a good argument.
Absolutely.
They are fathers, mothers.
It goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
That's the issue. People only want it. And
thugs have sons and daughters.
Exactly. And I get it. Like, someone who commits a crime, like, they're gonna give up a certain amount of respect, or
they give them away some of their freedom too.
Right. If you murder someone, you give away your right to a lot of things. It's your Second Amendment rights even.
Right.
If you're a felon, right? You made that choice. That's your choice. Now, I'm not saying what.
That's another conversation.
Right.
But
my whole point is if I was to, if I was king for a day, kind of a thing. Here we are solving all the world's problems, right? My only thing I would say to police forces and protesters who are getting aggressive with these police is to remember that each side they want to go home to their families.
Yes.
If they don't have kids or wife or whatever, they got mom and dad.
They do.
They have dad and dad, mom and mom.
Brothers
I don't
and
know.
sisters.
They have somebody that in their life that cares about them. And that applies to every single person. So here's your homework for those of you who listen for this week. When you go out in the town, if you're driving somewhere, whatever you're doing, I want you to pick 5 people and look at them and kind of try to like gauge, just looking at them, kind of gauge who they are as a person, with their actions, body language, whatever, and to say to yourself, this is a person. Maybe, especially the guy who cuts you off in traffic, that's a person.
Yeah.
The person, the cashier at the store that's being like nasty to you because she's got to wear the mask all day and she's tired and she's just sick of dealing with people, that's a person.
Yeah.
Whoever it is, that's a person. And I think we've gotten away from that in the United States. I think politically, it's us versus them.
Right.
You know, how many times, you know, when we post stuff on Facebook, we always like to argue to people.
Not us.
How many times do you get, you know, where someone doesn't even want to hear your argument because
Yes.
you're not a person, you're a political party at that point.
Yes. So on our show Facebook page, I posted something about how people are becoming better at defending politicians than they are defending liberty.
Yeah, I like that. Absolutely.
Because that's just how it is.
That's really
it's just a wall.
Absolutely right.
If you're going to argue the morality of certain things, it's just there's no argument. But if you want to argue the character of a politician, argument's on now.
Well, he's just misunderstood.
Right.
Or well, he just blah blah blah. It's like, you're allowed. I don't know if anyone knows this, but you're allowed to say good things and bad things about politicians. They chose to be in office.
Yeah. And you know, I have something up on my phone. It was a tweet that was put on Facebook by a friend of mine, and it says, "Having a high distrust for government does not make you a conspiracy theorist. It makes you a history buff." And so that just goes to the point.
Love that.
You know, like it's like I said last week, Trump's economy was so good, dude. Like you couldn't. So for example, like where I work, we couldn't get enough workers. Mm-hmm. And where I work, people who are like low level workers, when they reach the top out of their pay, they're making 85, 90 grand a year.
Really?
And they couldn't find enough people to start this job. So that's how good the economy was. But at the same time, when Trump, you know, endorses kidnapping people and putting them in vans, the economy's great, but kidnapping people and putting them in vans, that, you know, you can still say, hey, I don't really like that.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah, just don't do that. I like the economy, bro. Like, thanks for doing this.
Keep doing that part.
Yeah, just keep doing that part. But how about we change this? You know, people think that it's us versus them. It's a all or in.
It's all or nothing.
All or nothing. Yes. And then
if anyone thinks for half a second that whoever their politician is for whatever office is going to be great all the time, you don't understand human nature.
Or even most of the time, dude. It's like even most of the time, I don't know. Like I make a lot of wrong decisions. Mm-hmm. Like I would say 50% of the time, I make the wrong decision. And now what I mean by that is like, you know, what is it? Humans make 10,000 decisions in a day, like whether to turn left or right on a road. You know,
right.
Like half the decisions I make are like not probably the most ideal decision. Whether I decide to take because you know I'm a dad now, so I like to take shortcuts that are never really shortcuts. You know, so that's a wrong decision. You know, so and the same applies for Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Now he's actually, even though I don't agree with a lot of his things, he is still a high functioning human being.
Yes.
So I'm sure most of his decisions are probably pretty good, but the ones that aren't. Hey man, stop that.
You're allowed to say something.
Yes.
Yeah. I can't understand. I do understand it, I should say. So many people defend every single thing he says and does.
Yes.
And there's no reason for that.
There's no reason for it.
It's okay to, like, I have a buddy, his name's Kurt, all right? I love Kurt because if I start getting fat, do you know what Kurt says? Hey, Steve, getting kind of fat.
I think I've heard this.
He denies this, by the way, which is so funny.
I can see him doing that.
But he does. And you know what? I legitimately, genuinely appreciate that. That's why he and I are really good friends. Because if I got something in my teeth, he'll be like, hey, man, you got something in your teeth. How many of your friends will just let you have like a chive in your tooth all day? Or how many work
Hopefully
friends?
None of them do that.
Right. I won't. I'll tell you right now, if some of your teeth, you know, if something's messed up, I'm going to tell you.
I actually have some friends at work who I talk to more than others. Mm-hmm. And they will tell you, like, dude, you're getting fat, or like you're getting out. You know,
those are those are real friends, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the friends and family who will just tell you when something's wrong. Those are the ones you want to hold on to.
Now, imagine this. Imagine going to work, and your friends like you so much, but they won't tell you about the thing in your teeth. Instead, they'll make a website, name it Q, and then make a theory on why the thing's in your teeth instead of just telling you, hey, the thing's in your teeth. No, it's there for a reason because of this, and we're going to make a dozen websites. QAnon thing? Yes. Instead of just being like, hey, we don't like that, we're going to make a ton of conspiracy websites to explain why it's in your teeth.
That's a huge macro example.
I thought it was good. I thought I came up with that. I thought that was really good. and I hate to like use that as an example because a lot of my good friends are into that stuff.
Yeah.
But instead of coming up with these things on why these bad things that are said or done occurred, how about we just point at the thing in the teeth?
Exactly. You're making too much time to explain something that can just be, hey, Steve, you're getting fat. Instead of, I don't even know what he would do. Kurt would never do anything else. Like, that's how he is. But
no, he's a good person.
Yeah. And like I said, he's who you want. I tell you right now, if the governors and the federal, the Fauci and all these guys would have been, look, we don't know anything about this. Like, then they kind of did that at first. But like, when they were wrong, they weren't like, hey, look, we were wrong.
They were kind of like, well,
we, according to new data, like they had the nerd way of being like, hey, look, we were wrong. I'm telling you, if more people that were like putting out this information about the Rona and all that stuff, if they were just like, look, we were wrong, we made a bad decision. This is the new data we have. I think this whole would have went over a lot better.
I'm gonna give you an analogy that a sports podcaster uses, because he's always pounded on about how like he likes to change his position on certain athletes, and he's like, look, guys, it's like a GPS, right? If I'm going to take this road, and it's always the best way to go, I'm going to take that way. I'm going to tell you it's the best way to go. But if there's construction, new information comes up. If there's a flood, new information comes up, then I'm going to take a different way. It's not because I'm not going to be stubborn and go, well, I did say I was going to go this way. No, new information.
That's
You're
what
a
we do
GPS.
at the national level with things like with the Rona or whatever it is, the topic du jour. And the governor of Indiana, like, what did he come out?
My
he
gosh.
says, he's like, I want to talk about this. He says, if you don't have a mask on Monday, I don't know why he had to wait a couple days, but anyway, if you don't have a mask on Monday, it's a class B misdemeanor, which, by the way, is like the same as a DWI.
It's actually less. I mean, more. That is a higher punishment than a
So
first
of course, now
violation.
he's rescinded that because every sheriff in the state is like, no.
Yeah.
You can't make laws like that, dude. That's not how laws work. And everyone's like, oh, you got to do it. It's going to be a law. Oh, you got to do it. Everyone's freaking out. It's like, no, I'm not doing it. Like,
No.
Not because I don't care. It's because it's not illegal. You can't make a law. You are not a king. This is not a kingdom.
For the record, I do wear masks. I know a few weeks ago we talked about this, and I kind of thought about it more after we recorded. And it's like, I actually do wear a mask almost all the time when I'm out, just out of respect, not because I fear for my
I do
life.
the same way, yeah. Yeah, I don't do it. That's the thing is, like, so many people aren't going to do it because they're being told they have to.
Right.
Or the other one, when the governor had his little press conference talking about how on this day everyone's got to wear it across the state, he had his doctor get on there, or his head of health, whatever she is, and she says, I'm going to get my teacher voice or my doctor voice on right now. You need to wear the mask. Like, pointing the finger, like, And I'm like, do you understand that you're talking to adults?
Not children.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the government disrespects its citizens at every level like this.
Yes.
And that's why people aren't responding to it. That's why people are like, no.
Right.
I'm an adult.
It's kind of like the helicopter parent theory.
Yes. Yeah.
Your kids gotta,
I got to tell you what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Your kids at some point is going to be like, whatever, I'm not listening to you anymore.
Exactly. And that's what's happened. They've pushed so much, so hard, and so condescendingly. Now, you can make the argument that those like me who don't like that are just being petulant children. Right. But you're not helping your case. Like, again, we're people.
So I'm going to ask you something. There's a quote, and it was what I was doing on my laptop before we started recording. It's a Thomas Jefferson quote. When the people fear their government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. The reason why I bring that up is because it's kind of like the helicopter government thing, When the government, when the people fear their government, there's tyranny, right? So black people who would feel oppressed, who are causing these like riots and stuff, they fear the government right now.
Yeah.
Right? And there's, in their world, there is tyranny. Tyranny, sorry. There's tyranny in the world, in their world,
Yeah.
Because like where you and I live here, there's really no tyranny going on. There's
not
nothing,
really. Yeah.
There's
You just got
nothing,
the occasional Karen saying your grass is too long if you live in an HOA.
Oh,
which
dude,
should be
I live in a
illegal.
small town, and we have people that do that. We got a letter today, or not today, I'm sorry, this month, saying that if you have weeds over 12 inches, they're gonna call the cops.
The cops?
Yeah. Well, it didn't say that directly after that statement, but like towards the end of the letter, it was like, if you fail to comply to like any of these things, like,
oh my gosh, mind your business.
Just made me think of that. But no, these people think that there is tyranny in their world.
Yeah.
And so,
you know what? I don't know how you feel about it, but I think that's warranted in a lot of cases in big cities because yeah. I mean, like, you can't say. Now you can argue this is muddy water here, but as far as like the BLM thing, for me personally, I support the movement, not the organization.
I agree 100%.
And I think a lot of people feel that way because the organization is like Marxist. That their founders are self-proclaimed Marxists.
For those of you who do not know what Marxism is, it's kind of
what leads to communism.
It's communism.
Yeah, it's the foundation of it.
Yeah.
But at first, I see all these protests, and of course, everyone was on board the protests at first because protesting is totally legal, right?
Well, and if you're doing it because somebody died, that's a good protest.
Right. And then on top of that, like even the Colin Kaepernick thing, like taking the knee during the anthem, like so many people were up in arms about that.
I'm going to talk about that later.
He's within his First Amendment rights.
Oh, now, absolutely.
Totally. Like, and his thing was protesting police brutality. Mm-hmm. And to your point, talking about the perceived tyranny, I don't know how much of it is actually just perceived. I think a lot of it's realized.
Yes. The reason I use the word perceived, because a lot of people don't think it's there.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to get on their level and just say perceived.
Sure. Sure. But then, where's that coming from? Where's all this frustration coming from?
Yeah.
If it was 100% all just made up in their heads, would there be this crazy reaction?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. There's truth to it. That my thing, like with anything in the world, politically, morally, is the answer is always somewhere in the middle, especially politically. Mm-hmm. Or if like you have a news story, if you watch like Daily Wire, get Ben Shapiro's take on it, and then you watch like HuffPost, the answer's in the middle.
Right.
It's never at one of those ends. Sure. It's always in the middle. And in this case, I think the answer is in the middle because Ben Shapiro always wants to cite all the statistics, and which are not they're empirical data.
Statistics are good.
He's not wrong. But neither are the people who are saying, this is how we're treated. They're not wrong either.
That's exactly what I said last week. Mm-hmm. You could come out with a stat. Let's say tomorrow there's a stat done by a college, and they come out with just impeccable data, like you can't even argue it. Mm-hmm. There is no racism. I know there is, but for the sake of argument, let's just say there is just data everywhere saying
it's gone.
It's all gone, right? But if people still feel like there is, then maybe there is some...
Why? We have to ask why.
Yeah, there's still some validity in how they feel.
Absolutely. They're people. Again, to our earlier point. They're people.
Yes.
And why do they feel that way? What is happening? One of the big things that I really appreciate about the Libertarian Party right now with Joe Jorgensen and all them is ending qualified immunity. Yes. Which basically, like, I get why it was a thing. I get on principle why it's a thing, but in practice, it's been way over abused.
Which is government, anyways, by principle. That makes sense. By practice, this is chaos.
Exactly. Something else that so her Twitter feed has been pretty lit lately.
Oh my gosh, you haven't been on there. It's just like
she said something like
wild land.
If big government was going to deliver this utopia they've been promising, we would currently be living in it. It's like too much big government obviously isn't working. Let's try something else.
Yep.
Vote gold or whatever. Hashtag vote gold or whatever. I'm about that life.
Yes.
That's very cash money.
I love it.
And I'd also keep more cash money because my taxes would be lower.
So if you don't mind, I'm gonna bring something up because you talked about the Kaepernick thing, and this is just a little short thing I just wanted to talk about. Is the cancel culture. So So now this episode isn't on cancel culture, but this is just a thought provoking thing I had.
Sure.
So anyways, you have let's go all the way back to 2016. Kaepernick kneeled. It became big. You can make arguments on why he kneeled. I'm a huge sports fan. Like football is just like it for me. Mm-hmm. And so when you look back at the history, you can argue, he was benched and then he started kneeling. Whatever, it doesn't matter. He kneeled. People got mad. People boycotted the NFL.
That's right wing cancel culture.
That's right wing cancel culture.
No one will admit
what I'm getting into. This is funny. So Republicans get mad when liberals get rid of, aka cancel statues of slave owners. Yet all it takes for a Republican to cancel something is for someone to not stand for the anthem.
Yeah. Did you write that?
Yeah. So I'm not saying that taking down statues is right or wrong. I'm just thinking it's sort of ironic that it takes death and enslavement for the left to cancel things. Death and enslavement seems like a good reason to cancel things.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we should, but it seems like a good reason.
It's a better argument than
then so. But it only takes disrespect for someone on the right to want to cancel something.
Absolutely.
So
you are absolutely right.
This is just wild. So don't stand for an anthem. You're going to boycott and cancel the NFL or NBA or whatever it is. But don't get me wrong, because like the left is vandalizing statues of heroes like Frederick Douglass. That should not be tolerated.
I think 90% of that is just ignorance.
It is ignorance
because they're like, hey, a statue. We're tearing these statues down right now.
Right. It was right. But at the same time, I'm not necessarily talking about Antifa tearing statues down. I'm talking about legislators tearing statues down. You see in the South, a lot of legislation going on right now about statues, whether to keep them up or take them down,
or any like Confederate related stuff.
And I'm not saying I'm pro taking down statues, because I think there is a learning curve there, where you can just be like, oh well, we can keep it, put up a plaque, say, hey, this guy did this, did this. He grew up here, which is why the statue's here. Right. I can see that being a better idea than tearing a statue down, but I do think I just wanted to bring up that I think it's funny and ironic that death and enslavement, a good reason to cancel something, is frowned upon on the right, but for something
by disrespecting, by perceived disrespect,
the right's going to cancel something.
Yep,
and that's okay. I don't know. It's something ironic. It's a thought-provoking argument that I had, and and I hate to like hound on Republicans lately.
Yeah, we've been really mean to them.
I've been so mean, but it's almost
which is funny because we both
warranted.
Used to be Republicans.
It's warranted. I'm still a registered Republican.
Yeah.
And it's just, and I don't mind being a Republican again. Like, oh yeah, but it's just, I hate being put in this group, because if I go to work or something, or you're probably the same way, when you're at work, people might perceive you as a Republican because you're pro-gun, less taxes, less government, pro freedom of speech. Oh, you're a Republican, you're conservative, which you and I are kind of conservatives.
Yeah.
But I just hate being put in that group.
Yeah, I think to your point, traditionally, within the last 50 years.
Sure.
If you were to say, okay, I'm pro-gun, pro-lower taxes, pro-smaller government, those three things alone, what am I? Everyone's
50 years ago.
Everyone's going to tell you Republican.
Right. Even some Democrats were like that.
Yeah.
50 years ago.
Yeah. But each side...
Because they weren't off the deep end.
Because I think I probably am exposed to more conservative or right-leaning media, news and whatnot, than I am left. Leftist or centrist or whatever you want. Not necessarily intentionally, it just happens to be what I come across, I guess. Well, and probably that's people I know on Facebook sharing.
It's the only way you can get news. Watching right-leaning media is the only way you can get news where it's not just all bashing Trump. So
right. That's true.
It gets annoying.
It does. And I don't even have strong feelings for the guy.
No, I don't.
You know what I mean? Like, but if you look at where each side's going, to your point, you're saying, some Democrats used to be like what I was, those three things.
Yeah.
I feel like a huge percentage of both sides are going to their extremes as far as like the figureheads, not necessarily like the common person, like the
people they're voting for.
Right.
Voting habits.
I do feel like a lot of, Republican types that we know are becoming more authoritarian.
Oh, dude,
that's a big thing. I've
like
noticed.
50 times a day, and when I'm scrolling through Facebook, I just want to copy and paste authoritarian and just like comment on people's stuff.
Yeah,
authoritarian,
right?
Authoritarian, authoritarian,
and those on the left that I know are
authoritarian left.
Of course, by their very nature of some of their things that they're for, like those who are for communism. That's very authoritarian.
It is very authoritarian.
It's funny because like. They don't say I'm not for I'm for democratic socialism. That's authoritarian. That's authoritarian. It's
authoritarian
with like makeup on. That's the same thing. It always leads to that every time. Every historic. That's the part I can't understand about those who are like for socialism. It always leads to Venezuela, to the Soviet Union, to Vietnam. Every single time. Anyway,
I guess we can look at Europe right now and watch and look and listen. Maybe they'll be the outlier. Maybe they can.
They won't.
They won't.
Because
you're already seeing ministers getting arrested on the street for preaching the gospel. You're already seeing.
Yep.
You can't buy children's silverware without being 18 years old.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're right.
It always leads. Always leads there. And right now, a lot of Republicans are just doing the right wing's version of that.
Yes.
here in the United States. Right-wing authoritarianism isn't any better than left-wing authoritarianism.
Right. I mean, well, they think it's better because it's not communism.
Right.
Like, well, we still like less taxes, and, but you're very, 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 very pro law enforcement, which is in nature, historically speaking,
not been a good thing.
It's not the best thing.
Yeah.
It's not the best thing.
Oh, I guess I think to clarify what you just said, not so much like, hey, cops are great. That's not what we mean. We mean like, hey, the cops should like be able to come into your house and take you without telling anybody.
Yeah. Well, so for example, Indianapolis, the IMPD, the Indianapolis Police, just ended no-knock raids.
Absolutely.
That is great.
Hey, win.
It's a win for us. It's a win for us libertarians and anybody. Yeah. Anybody that wants to be alive.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who do not know, a no-knock raid is essentially, I'm going to butcher this too, is essentially a way where police can get into a house or, to get a criminal.
Right.
Where they may not be able or may not want to have the ability to just like knock and wait.
Right.
They want to just get in there and get them.
Yep. So,
which makes sense, but it kills people.
Yeah, it's killed innocent people.
Yes.
A lot. Like, percentage-wise, it's probably way fewer than 1%.
Right, but if that's the price you're willing to pay for that,
right, exactly.
then it's not worth it.
And on top of that, so the whole argument for no-knock raids is you're giving the criminals a chance to get away.
Right.
I'm like, if you can't, like, surround that house, what are you doing?
Right.
Aren't y'all, isn't like, that's a SWAT thing.
That's the point of your job.
Yeah. Like, it's just like the beat cop rolling in with his partner, like doing a no-knock raid on someone's house.
2 guys.
No,
the Breonna Taylor
it was like 4 dudes, right?
It was like 2 to 4 dudes, and I mean, we don't even need to get into that because that would take another half hour.
Yeah.
But this chick died.
Yeah.
Sleeping.
Yeah.
In her bed.
And it was the wrong house.
And it was the wrong house.
Yeah.
Because people will be like, well, she shouldn't have been involved in criminal activity.
She wasn't. She was an EMT.
Yeah. She was a stand-up citizen. Her boyfriend seemed fine too.
Yeah.
But anyways, the reason I brought that up with the IMPD is a lot of right-leaning authoritarians are like, well, we need that.
Yeah.
And because they are overly submissive to the police forces.
Yep.
Which, like I said, it leads to bad things. Now, like you said, statistically, the amount of people that die from those is probably super low.
Yeah.
Because most cops aren't bad guys.
Right, exactly. And I think for the majority of the time, the Breonna Taylor example, if you look,
it's horrific.
It was so poorly executed, like, even for a no-knock raid, as unconstitutional, in my opinion, as that is, like,
Fourth
just
Amendment.
the way it was done was horrible. They had the wrong house. They had the wrong person.
They were not.
They shot her 8 times in her bed.
So they didn't have uniforms on, which is why the boyfriend immediately went into the offensive.
Yes,
because
that's the same thing I would do.
I'm speaking out of ignorance here, but they are both black.
Yeah.
So hypothetically speaking, they're probably not in the richest neighborhood, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
So that means if 2 random dudes knock on the door at a weird time of the day when you're both sleeping, you're probably thinking you're going to get jumped.
Oh, that happened in my house, and I live in a little like tiny small white town.
Right.
I promise you.
I'm getting my gun. I'm going to hold it down here while I'm looking through the peephole.
Yep.
Just like he did, and he thought they were going to get messed up.
Yep.
But anyways,
that's the same thing I would do.
Back to you.
Yeah, but authoritarians on either side are bad. Okay, so it's the craziest thing about people who are like against those with a more like libertarian perspective is all we want is left alone.
Yes.
Like, how radical is this?
Well, some people put it in the same category as anarchy. They'll go, well, you guys are just anarchists. You just want chaos.
There is parts of like the quote the official libertarian party.
It's a very small portion.
That's
the loudest portion,
if not outright anarchist borderline. I even think Spike Cohen, who's the vice president, he's got some like anarchist things he said, but I think he kind of says some of them tongue in cheek, knowing they'll never happen. Like, wouldn't it be nice if we just didn't have to have laws? Like, yeah, it would be nice, but we have to have laws. Like, I get it.
Right.
There is a function for the federal government.
Right. But
right now, the function is far too much. It's got too big of a hand in the cookie jar, so to speak.
Right.
And a lot of that comes, talking about individual responsibility. That's a big thing for you and I. So many people give up their individual responsibilities, even at government levels. Like, the governor of New York, what was he saying? Oh, the federal government's not doing anything to help us. Now, that was a political act. I get that. But at the end of the day, he's not running his state. He's wanting Trump to run his state. Oh, it's his fault. It's like, it's your state, dude.
Right.
Clean your own house. So, that being said, don't be an authoritarian. We like throwing communists from helicopters. I'm just kidding.
No, you're not kidding.
Not really. It'd be awesome.
Or wood chippers.
Well, if Joe Jorgensen gets elected, I can own like an Apache. So that's an option at the time.
I like it. All right. Well, that is about all we got today. So I guess we'll see you guys next week. You said you're not going to be here next week?
I will not be here next week.
Okay. So
unless we work something else out.
Okay. That might be a good idea.
That may be an option. But as of right now, it'll be the solo Caleb run yet again, which you did a great job last week.
I appreciate it.
And probably it will make up for the amount of talking I've done today.
No, I thought today's show was good. So, all right, guys. Well, we'll see you next week.